Thank you, Mr. Padmanabhan. Thank you to the chairs. Dr. Sanjeev Jasuja asked me to talk a little bit about nephrologist skill development. I don't know what that means. Really, that might mean different things to different people. So I guess we can start by asking the question, why do nephrology? Because your skills are related to the thing that you do. And I wish we had some more time, because and perhaps you could actually ask this question to the trainees here. Why did you decide to choose nephrology as a career? And I'll give you some time, and maybe we can come back to this later. But the way I look at it is that nephrology is perhaps a most comprehensive field. Nephrology is a field where you can do clinical medicine, you can do basic research, but more than anything else, you really have a curiosity about understanding pathophysiology. Things like electrolyte, acid-base disorders, which no one else in the hospital can solve, are the issues that you can go and actually bring some enlightenment into an area of darkness. As we have that shlok in Sanskrit, tamasoma jyotirgamaya. So you bring some light there. Many nephrologists, and especially nephrology trainees, really grumble about this, is that why do we have to go and solve these problems? But to me, that appears to be perhaps one of the most enjoyable bits about nephrology. So it's like solving a puzzle. You solve that particular puzzle. Then you have to be a good immunologist. You have to know how to manage infections well, especially in a country like India, where you don't have good and many infectious disease specialists. And fortunately or unfortunately, many of our patients with kidney disease, both acute and chronic kidney disease, because they have a disease, and then because we put them on the kinds of treatment which make them more predisposed to infection, we have to learn how to manage infections well. Many of our patients will develop cardiac complications. 40% of your end-stage kidney disease patients have kidney disease due to diabetes, so you have to know how to manage diabetes. So really, you need to know pretty much everything. So this is as close to internal medicine as you can come to. And if you are interested, then you can actually employ your skills in other areas like statistics, mathematics, and most importantly, ethics, and we'll come back to that in a minute. Nephrology is also innovative. You did see the pictures that Dr. Kriplani showed. And I think, unless someone can prove me wrong, nephrology was one of the first specialties in modern medicine where real innovation came in the form of dialysis. So the possibility of extending someone's life using a procedure when the person has developed end-stage organ failure is something, the concept became really possible because of the nephrologists. Extracorporeal treatment techniques, and even their innovations like peritoneal dialysis. Who could have thought you could use a membrane which has been provided to you by nature to actually perform a treatment? Discovery of new drugs, new areas of research, for example, xenotransplantation. Of course, now we transplant many more organs, but this whole field started from kidneys. And I think even in the area of xenotransplantation, when something comes up, perhaps kidneys will be the first organs to be transplanted. You solve unmet problems like ABO incompatibility. We develop innovations like organ sharing, swaps, dominoes, and whatnot. So all that is because nephrologists think they employ their skills. And eventually, if we get to that point, we might get to wearable kidneys. And it's really important to realize that we have come from this point, and this is Graham's original concept of dialysis in the mid-19th century, and we have really come somewhere which is much further than there. And this was the peritoneal dialysis treatment, which was started. You can see how it was started in the early days. But nephrology is still growing. That's really something which we all know, and this might be relevant to much more to India compared to many Western countries, where even though the nephrology is growing as a specialty, there it is not attracting young trainees as much as it used to do in the past. So in most of the developing world, you have a large and growing end-stage kidney disease population, and therefore there is an increasing need for dialysis and transplantation, which is one of the reasons this conference, the Avatar conference, which focuses on area which really is important for dialysis, a vascular access area. Really, last 2 or 3 years, the way Avatar has been successful, it tells us that people are realizing that this is an important area to focus on. We know that new centers are coming up pretty much every day, but we also must develop our skills in pre-dialysis CKD care, because we do know as nephrologists that if dialysis grows, it is good for nephrology business, if I might put it so crassly, but it really doesn't mean that we are necessarily providing the best care to our patients. The best care would be to try and see if we are able to bring the number of growing patients on dialysis to as little as possible, and even possibly stop it or regress it. So for that, we need to really have pre-dialysis care, preventive care, and so on. We must go to new areas, we must serve new populations. Of course, again, coming to really numbers, the income levels are not bad, and saturation level is not yet reached. And so therefore, there is all the more incentive. Technical advances are continuing, even in the areas of dialysis. Nephrology I must say, is a model for other fields as well. It is the originator of biomedical devices, it is the originator of transplant science, and in many ways it is the originator of clinical immunology also. Understanding diseases of the kidneys has helped us understand inflammation, chronic diseases. Many of the drugs have been, some of the initial repurposing of drugs has taken place in the field of kidney disease and transplantation. And again, there is no time to go into the details of how these have happened. There are interesting stories around it, but mTOR inhibitors, CNIs, erythropoietin, etc. It has, and the repurposing has allowed us to understand, for example, signaling pathways, and it cross-feeds to other fields and has led to roots in regenerative medicine. But more than that, nephrology is intensely rewarding as well. It allows you to form lifelong friendships. You develop close contacts because nephrology is a relatively small specialty. You don't have tens of thousands of people still in nephrology in India. At least there was a time when I was training, and in the initial years of my growth as a nephrologist, we practically knew every nephrologist in the country, knew each other. That is not possible anymore, but we still have close contacts. I think most of us would know each other either directly or through a friend. And you hear inspiring stories. You heard the inspiring story of how nephrology grew through Jayaprakash Narayan and Dr. Mani. And I am sure all of you have inspiring stories of your own mentors. It has an intensive multidisciplinary nature, and therefore, so that really allows you to showcase all your skills that you might have. So you don't become a unidimensional person who comes in the morning, puts on a set of scrubs, and goes into a cath lab and does plumbing all day. So I think that's what is different between a nephrologist and other specialists. It allows you to develop collegial relationship with other colleagues in other specialties as well. And this is something in the last bit may not necessarily be true for nephrology, but we do have great teachers, researchers, and clinicians. And finally, nephrology also, I must say, and this is something which in this era of rapid technological advancements, we seem to be sort of losing sight of, but it has a deep social and ethical impact, which we must not forget, and we must cultivate not only amongst ourselves, but we must cultivate it amongst our students. And that should be part of the skill of a nephrologist, to be empathetic and to always remain ethical. And there are a number of these questions which relate to the issues of how to provide dialysis, choosing between hemodialysis, peritoneal dialysis, different flavors of hemodialysis, even withdrawal of dialysis, not something which we think about, but as the number of elderly on dialysis grows, and as we understand the futility of treatment, we must really develop our skills in talking to patients, explaining to them why continuing dialysis may not be necessarily in their best interests. And that will bring the need for us to understand how to develop end-of-life care as well. Living donation is a very clear example where we must really understand the society as a whole as well. and that brings to the issue of transplant tourism. And when we talk about organ allocation, issues of allocation justice, what is the utility type of issue, life extension that we can provide from transplantation versus by dialysis versus really curing end-stage kidney disease by transplantation, and then how to deal with the young or the old. So I think, and in the end, I think our friends from the United States know about all these stories which used to happen in many years ago. And nephrology offers a number of career choices. There has been a change of generations clearly, and a number of positions are opening up. There is opportunity to specialize in basic or clinical research, exclusively practice clinical nephrology. Nephrology has a poor record in clinical trials, and so we must fix that. And industry is looking for researchers with skills and who have roots in research. So I think my time is up, and so therefore I must stop here. But this is just to say that there is a lot to do in nephrology. You can really employ any of your skills. It's not just because we are sitting in a vascular access meeting. We must talk about only vascular access related skills. If you have to become a nephrologist, we all must be all well-rounded. Thank you very much for your attention.
I must say that all of you will agree that you couldn't have had a better start for Avatar 2017 with these two inspiring speakers who in themselves are senior members of the Indian Society of Nephrology. I would want Dr. to speak some words for Bangladesh. Dr. Harun is from Bangladesh, and maybe you would want to.
Yeah, I can only thank these two distinguished professors who worked as a teacher, researcher, and innovator, and now become the pioneer nephrologist, not only in the Asia, but around the world. And you know that Vivek Jai is a president-elect of the International Society of Nephrology, and he is not only a honor and prestigious position, and we hope that he continue to grow nephrology further around Asia and the world. And their contribution to the South Asia is enormous, and thank you very much. Thank you.